So for me to start, I think it's nice to give some background of where is Mauritius. So Mauritius was discovered by the Arabs in 1502. And then there was a wave of other people who came. The Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, and the British became independent from Britain in 1968. About 50% of the population are Hindus, and Chinese just number 3%. So they're really indeed a minority. In terms of languages, the official language is English, but French is also commonly used.
In school, do they teach French as a second language?
Definitely, because Mauritius is a bilingual country, so we are happy to inherit the institution which France and Britain left over. So we all learn French. The con side of it is that, so we learn the French language, and we are forced to forget about our heritage, because I'm a Hakka. So we don't know anything about the Chinese culture, the Chinese language. It is really a balance.
So when did your parents went to Mauritius Island?
My parents left China in the 40s and 50s. They left because of war and of economic condition. So most of them went to this Mauritius island. I also understand that there are some other Hakka who went to other parts, other islands in the Indian Ocean. Really, since they had very little schooling in China, and they could only speak the Chinese Hakka dialect, you could foresee that they're going to have a hard time trying to find suitable employment or how to raise a family. So there's not too much of a choice. They end up opening a shop in the village. So the shop was in the village in the north of the island, and it was surrounded by customers. 90% of them are Indians.
Your sibling, brother, sister, they were born over there?
I happen to be the eldest in the family. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. So there are 5 of us. So the 5 of us in the family would be crammed in a small room at the back of the shop.
Okay. So what kind of item the shops sold for?
Oh yes, that's right. The shops would be selling general goods and household items. It also had a bar. And what I did notice was that oftentimes the customers would get rowdy. They would even fight. My dad is a man of few words. I guess he was really focused on trying to make sure that the shop was successful, because he had to make sure that he could take care of the family of 5. He could also take care of all the shop assistants who are really depending on the shop.
Yeah. All of you guys went to school in Mauritius Island?
My parents are first generation Chinese in Mauritius. We, the kids, are the second generation, and we aspire to do better. From a young age, I think my parents realized the value of education. My mom was really focused on making sure that we had the best education that we could have. I had to go in the village primary school. My mom made sure that I skipped 2 classes, so that instead of taking 6 years to complete my primary certificate of education, I finished it in 4 years. That's the first thing she did. The second thing which she did was to make sure that I get transferred from the village primary school to a city primary school. Well, the reason being that in the city, the standards are much higher, with the end result that in my final year, I managed to do well enough to be admitted to the Royal College of Port Louis, which I may say is a prestigious college for boys, because if you could make it to the Royal College of Port Louis, then you're well set.
So all of your brother, sister, they went to the same school as you, or?
No, it's like customized. She ensured they all had a good beginning in life, because without that good beginning, I think we will probably end up just like my parents working in the shop. But I'm sure we have better hope. We aspire to do better in life. So I was at this Royal College Port Louis, and I finished my Cambridge High School certificate in the minimum of years, which is 7 years. There are some folks who could leave the college after 5 years after getting a Cambridge School certificate. So what it means is that After 5 years of college, I could have probably applied and got a job in the local branch as a clerical officer. That would be considered quite a posh appointment. Or else I could spend a couple of years attending the teachers training college, where when I would end up as a kind of a primary school teacher. But I think those were too low for me. I aspired to do better. So what happened is that it's logical that after completing my Cambridge High School certificate, I applied admission to do mechanical engineering at the University of Manchester. There are two parts to this question. The admission process was the easy part. There's no problem. I sailed successfully. But the difficult part was the money aspects, because as you well know, the Mauritian currency is very small compared with the British pound. And certainly with my parents just having a shop, they are in no way, no position to finance my university education.
So your parents was bring 5 children into the small island called Mauritius. How did they overcome all the barriers to live a life there?
There are many challenges which they have to face. I will just mention 2 of them. First is not knowing the patois language. That in itself is something which they have to overcome. Because if you can't communicate, how you could do the trade? Let's assume that after 6 months, they did have a working knowledge. So that is solved. The other part which I want to address is, this being a shop, the village shop instituted a system of microcredit. The shop owners and the customers agreed that they could buy stuff, they could buy goods, even if they have no money, but they can't really sell in 2 weeks or 4 weeks when they get paid by the sugar estates. Well, sometimes the shop owner gets burned. What I meant by that is that some customers just refuse to pay. You could accept that 1 or 2 customers may refuse to pay their debt, but if you have too many of such customers, the shop is going to go bankrupt. And that would have dire consequences for the shop, for all of us. Incidentally, this microcredit system, it became quite famous by Professor Mohammed Yunus, because he got a Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for pushing this microcredit system.
So the microcredit system really impacted the business at the end of the day.
The microcredit system made sure that the villagers don't get hungry. Even if they have no money, we felt generous to extend this credit. So really we are contributing towards the life of the village. I think that's quite an important thing to mention or emphasize.
But if your parents cannot get the money back, how they're going to raise their children, right? If it's too many customers doing things like that.
Really the best way is when you decide to extend this microcredit, it is all on your judgment on whether he's a good customer or not. There's also a feeling of trust, of humanity, of generosity. Because if the customer says, Mr. Shop owner, I have nothing, I mean, won't you try to do something? Help him. And I thought that what I learned from my school from a young age, I think that's quite important in the sense that when we are doing well, we should always try to help those who can't help themselves. Here I was talking on the financial aspect, but one could definitely help people, not just on financial aspect, on moral aspect, on other aspects.
One more question. I'm curious, like, how did your parents go to Mauritius? Is that by boat, by airplane?
Oh no, in the 40s and 50s there was no airplanes. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm
No,
thinking.
okay. Yes. It's something which I will share with you in my 4th presentation. There's a place in Meizhou. I had to go there and I saw the place. That place is called Songkuzen. What it is, all the people leaving Meizhou, say coming to the islands in the Indian Ocean, they have to pass that place. That is the last place they see of China. So today that place is a historic place. So that place is called Songkuzen. So I saw that place. Part of it, you have the old buildings. So it's like being frozen in time. So they all have to go to that place. And from there, I understand that's going to take you to another place. Then they come on a kind of a ship. The ship are not the kind of luxury cruise liner that you see. They're like ships to carry goods. And the voyage would be 3 to 4 weeks. I also hear that sometimes people they get seasick. And can you imagine? Can you imagine being seasick for 4 weeks? So it was a hard time of their lives, leaving China and coming to Mauritius.
At the time when they moved to Mauritius, they are quite brave because you're going somewhere you don't know.
Can you imagine going somewhere, not knowing how they're going to make a living, and then going to a place where you don't know the language, and yet you decided that this is what you want to do? I mean, they must have a certain conviction that they will succeed, because it would be shameful of them to say, I failed and I come back.
And even they reach there and they have no way to contact their own parents, like your grandma, grandpa.
because
yeah.
So there was no way of communicating, because you're on a ship. Maybe you could hear from them, but the turnaround time could be a couple of months when you ask a question.
So have your parents ever mentioned how long it took by ship from the home city to Mauritius Island?
We grew up, our parents tried to inculcate in us these Confucius values. They told us about stories of the simple life in Meizhou, and so did the shop assistant. They tell us about all these things. I still recall, but unless you have seen the place. So to me, it was like a fairy tale until very recently, because I just came back from a trip to China. It's like retracing their roots, and I thought that was really important for me to do. I didn't have the opportunity to do that before, but now I went with a cousin of mine. He was born in China, and so he was living in China until he was 13, and he got a Chinese education. So it means that he understands the Mandarin dialect, and then he went to Mauritius, from Meizhou to Mauritius, and then he managed to go to England, and then now he's in Canada. So I had the good fortune of having a good guide to follow, because at this time there are not too many people left who could tell the story from behind.